Let's talk about The Undertaker on Joe Rogan really quickly.
Oh, man.
I watched most of it, a little more than half, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to watch everything. It just looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" I said, I don't think I was ready to have Undertaker be a normal person.
Right.
Like, he's
No.
obviously not a normal person,
It's
right?
like watching Santa Claus on Rogan.
It really, that's exactly what I said. I said, it's like some
great.
guy takes his beard off. He's like, dude, I've been Santa for the last 3,000 years.
Right.
You know?
What?
This has been.
He's like scratching his belly, and it's like, oh, dude, no.
I've been Santa for the last, 1,000 year, whatever you're
Right.
gonna, whenever Santa originated. So
Sure.
I found it interesting. You could tell that he was a little nervous because he's not really media trained.
Mm.
He's a guy that
No.
was a freaking dead zombie.
Right.
Who was the comic that was with them?
Oh, I don't remember his name. The guy who
And
was
he's
in
a
the
big
corner?
wrestling. Yeah, he's a big wrestling fan.
Oh, Skinny Kid?
Yeah,
Mm.
someone in the chat will know. I forgot
I
his
don't
name,
remember.
but
It was, you know what? After you sent the link to everybody yesterday, I really enjoyed it. I'm not super big into Joe Rogan, but that first hour and a half, really, really entertaining.
I like that Joe did not pull back. You don't get the normal traditional media interview with him.
No.
I mean, there was a lot of moments. Tony Hinchcliffe, there you go. Thank you, John. And Tony, Tony was there because he's a big wrestling fan. He was friends with Piper.
Right.
They did like comedy stuff with Piper. I thought Taker being asked about steroids and Vince's steroids and, how did people have that physique? I don't think he's ever been confronted with questions like that, and it came out of nowhere. I think
Very
he
good.
handled it right because he's like, listen, I took steroids and I never had a body like that.
Right.
So he kind of gave an out for these guys.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see them talk about wrestling because Joe's not a wrestling fan.
No, and that's why you get those kind of questions.
Yeah, and you got questions from people that don't know what they're supposed to ask a wrestler.
Right.
Because they haven't been kind of like, listen, kayfabe smarted up. Not to ask a wrestler about steroids. Not to ask them about, certain things. Right. But he doesn't know that. And
that's
I think
not in Joe's bubble.
No, it's not. And I think he did a great job with that. I haven't watched the second half. I got when they started talking about hunting, I just went back to AEW.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to.
Talking about elk and
deer jerky and all that. But I'm going to watch it. I really, dude, I was hoping. I'm like, you know what? Now the Undertaker's a normal person. I really hoped at one point he was going to be like, hey, Jamie, give me that vial. And they just do DMT together.
Oh,
and Undertaker now becomes possessed by his character.
Right.
And he goes into character. He's like, all of a sudden his eyes roll back and he starts doing like the old school Undertaker stuff.
He brings
and
up the urn.
Just takes a shit on the desk.
Right.
I just wanted to lose his mind.
There's a whole other half. It might happen.
There is a whole lot. I don't even know if it happened. I wanted it to go into alien talk. I was hoping that Undertaker's like a big alien guy. And he's like, yeah, of course they're real. And then he goes into like some crazy theory about mole men. Like Undertaker's a big mole men guy, flat earther. Like I wanted to go through crab people. Wanted him to go through all of that. I was just how wonderful would it be if the Undertaker just looked deadpan in the camera and is like, aliens are real, man. I've seen them. And then Joe Rogan's third eye opens up and it's just beaming at the Undertaker. It's whatever was in the urn is now in Joe Rogan's mind.
You're making what the reality of the episode is less enjoyable for me now because I want that to happen
100%.
so bad.
It doesn't. You know what happens? Joe Rogan breaks his chops about steroids, and Undertaker's like, well, you had to be big. You had that was pretty much it. Like again, like Andrew said, you got to hand it to Undertaker for handling it as well as he did, because it's not. He had to get rid of the kayfabe and be like, it's 2021. All right, I could talk about this stuff. And he addressed it in the fact that he was like, we didn't have to be that big, but that was the thing where you had to be over 300 pounds. You had to be as big as effing possible. And he was like, we were working, 300 dates a year, etc. And I think that stuff, since Rogan's not a wrestling fan, I think that stuff blew him away, where he's like, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, dude, like we would work 6 nights a week and twice on Sunday. We would be touring. We're doing house shows. We're doing this and that. So you had to do pills. You had to drink. You had to do all this other stuff. Because they talked about like the longevity he had in the business, Well,
and
the also
other thing
like,
was, go ahead, Rich. Sorry.
I was gonna say also like Taker and he did say that he was doing some gas or whatever at some point in his career, but he never looked like like a bloated, like steroid dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, well, they were busting on Braun Strowman and how physically impressive he is. But you know what was interesting? I'm curious if Taker's going to do more of this, and I was shocked that WWE promoted this.
Right.
Like, did they hear this interview
No.
before promoting it on a WWE channel? I would be shocked if this was not reviewed.
I think they looked at the numbers for Rogan and they said,
I know, but I don't think
like,
they've ever. It was listen. You want to talk about? It was a compromising position for the WWE.
Uh-huh.
That interview was a compromising position because it reinvigorated a conversation that nobody talks about.
right.
Listen, and here's the thing. Joe's response was, "Listen, I don't give a shit. Nobody's testing Arnold Schwarzenegger or
Right.
Sly Stallone when he's filming a movie. So what difference does it make? Because Joe doesn't see it as a sport. He sees it as entertainment. So, and also the word steroid, and I'm shocked Joe didn't. Joe was using the word steroid.
Right.
I don't believe anybody in that company is on a traditional anabolic steroid of the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. No, like, that's not
40-year-old steroids. Hell no.
I don't think guys are doing cycles of D-ball.
Right.
There's so much better ways of getting testosterone and getting larger.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. So when Undertaker's saying like, no, these guys are tested and like I've done piss tests, they're not on steroids. I don't necessarily think he's not being honest. I think he is being truthful as far as he understands. I think if you have 100 wrestlers in that roster, I would say maybe one guy would do it. But it's not a thing that's done. The thing that people grabbed onto was the fact that Undertaker said he works 270 nights a year.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, never in his life did he work that. Why exaggerate it? Why elaborate? I don't think Undertaker ever worked he never had 270 matches in a year, but you got to put the travel in, you got to put meetings in, you got to put not going home.
Right. I was going to say, do you think he was
He
there?
was there. Yeah.
Okay.
He was on the
he was
road. Yeah, you're on the road. You know, you're
Right.
I would, if you ask me how many days do I work, you know, if I'm traveling, I'm going to count that as my days working.
Sure.
I'm not going to say, well, I worked less today, so I'm not going to count it. These guys are on the road. It's not an easy life. A lot of people are infatuated with that. Hogan, I think, at one point said he used to work 400 nights a year. 400.
Yeah.
He used to wrestle 400 nights a year. And I'm like, even if he did doubles, it would never be to that number. Listen, Hulk Hogan worked 450 days a year, but Terry Bollea, 20.
Listen, Poppy, I'm on a 400-day calendar.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out Matman Clips. If you want to listen to a full episode of the show, click on one of the links below and be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube and, of course, everywhere podcasts are available.